Welcome to Sounding Board. This is a weekly program completely produced by club members of Seroptimus International of Novato. Do you know, we've been doing this for 20 years and we just love it. The mission of the whole organization, Seroptimus International, the mission of the organization is to help improve the lives of women and girls, both locally and globally. Today we have County Librarian Gail Haar with us. We've had Gail with us before and she has just a tremendous amount of resources to share with our community and we just love having her. We could have you back every other week, I think, Gail. You're just fabulous. So today, however, we're going to focus the program on the library's tagline, which is "My Choice for Leisure, Learning, or Living." That's the library. And the spotlight is on the word learning, and specifically on that of lifelong learning possibilities. So before we get going on this lifelong learning, Gail, give us a quick overview of how the branches of the Marin County Free Library fit in with all the different city libraries.
Sure. So we have 10 branches, and they're all over the county, and they include all of the unincorporated areas of the county, and plus the cities of Corte Madera, Fairfax, and Novato.
Yay, Novato.
Yay, Novato. And we serve about 140,000 people. And then there are 6 more city libraries that are all independent in the county, but we all get together and share all our books among us through a program we call MarinNet. So if you look on any of our catalogs, you actually see everyone's books there, and anyone in Marin County can borrow a book from any other library in Marin County, and they can return it to any library in Marin County.
So my library card from the county is good for all those places.
It's good anywhere, and in fact, starting last year, it's also good at Dominican University.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, Thank you.
And then in addition to our physical buildings, we have a bookmobile that people might have seen driving around, and some programs for shut-ins that maybe we'll talk about later.
Right. Okay. So let's get started on this lifelong journey here of learning. So give us an overview of the lifelong learning concept.
So really our philosophy at the library is that it's never too early to learn, and it's never too late to learn. And we've got something for everybody. We call it lifelong learning. That's our shorthand for it. And we think of learning in kind of a big picture way. So we have books and we have DVDs and we have computer programs, but we also have book groups and speakers, and those programs are just as much learning as the learning you get from a book. We also think about learning as being divided into another 2 pieces. So you learn about things, but then you also learn to do things. So we try and support both of those.
Excellent. Well, if we're going to start down this journey of lifelong learning, let's start with the youngest ones. It's never too early to learn. So what do you have to offer those little guys?
Babies and toddlers are our littlest learners. But what people don't realize is that when we do programming for the little ones, we're really programming for their adults that come with them too. So about 2 years ago, we started an infant baby program called Mother Goose on the Loose. And together with an adult, we expose the kids to different concepts that they're going to need later when they learn to read. So they learn that it's fun to sit on an adult's lap and look at pictures, and we use music and repetition and stuffed animals to get the children's attention and to help them learn to focus their attention. So they think they're sitting there having fun, and we know that they're really learning skills that they're going to need later on, and their caregiver is learning the skills so they can go home and model that same behavior that they see the librarian doing when they get home with their baby.
Excellent.
So, and then we do preschool story times for the little bigger ones, and some of our branches even have after-school story times. So the kids come in, and sometimes they read chapter books, just a little bit harder kinds of things. Our children's staff are all specialists, and they really come up with some wonderful creative ideas. We're doing a series of pajama story times in Fairfax, and it's so cute. The kids all come in their PJs and they bring their stuffed animal, and the librarian's got her bathrobe tied on over her clothes and her fuzzy slippers, and she plays the guitar, and the kids just eat it up. And they stopped for the summer, and one little boy came in right after he was collecting his summer reading prize and said, "When are we going to start listening in our pajamas again?" So it's really a fun program. We really want the kids to learn to associate the library with fun, and learning is fun.
Good.
So that's really most of what we aim at. And the only other thing that I wanted to mention is we just bought for each of our children's areas an early learning station, and it's a computer. It's not connected to the internet, and it's got 52 educational games on it, and it's aimed at kids up to about 8 years old. And there's music programs on it, and there's vocabulary programs on it, and it's got a touch screen so the kids can do that, and really bright colored keyboards, and they don't realize they're having fun. They just think they're playing a game on the computer.
Great. I know just walking into a public library anymore is a whole different experience than what it used to be. It's just so colorful and rich and alive with creativity.
Well, and it's my favorite story of the week is they had in Novato, they had, I shouldn't say this, the fire marshal might be listening, but they had 83 children, 83 people for their Mother Goose on the Loose program a couple of weeks ago. So assuming maybe half of those were babies, probably they all had strollers. And our first thought was, where did they park 40 strollers at the Novato Library? But you're right. I mean, it just brings a whole liveliness to the building. Yeah.
Okay, so that little kid is going to grow up, and what do we have, what does the library have to offer for children, the school-age children, and young adults?
We have a lot. We're really not the school library. We have a different role, but we still have a lot of supplemental material, so we know that what month of the year our school district does a report on missions, and when they do a report on scientists, and when they do a report on women inventors or whatever. So we're prepared to have things for the kids to take out to supplement what they're using in school.
And you're helping to support us with our Bay Area Science Festival by having the month of October for being Science Month. We really appreciate that.
We are, and we really have been trying to make an effort to support the science in the library, because we've heard from local businesses that they're having trouble hiring kids who have those skills.
Right.
So if you encourage them now while they're still in elementary school and high school, when they get to college, they're more likely to major.
That's right.
The other science-related thing we did this year was over the summer, Google sponsored something called a maker camp. This is a very big concept these days, and it was like a virtual summer camp. So the kids got directions and built rockets and every night shared what they had done and learned during the day online with kids who were doing the similar things all across the country. And they took pictures, and they had Facebook pages, and incidentally they were using their math and science skills, even though they thought they were just out there having fun.
So what else for kids?
We've been doing a lot of SAT prep classes. It's that time of year, and some of them are actually aimed at adults to help their students with prepare for the test, and others of them are aimed at the kids. Last year we did a program in one of our libraries for writing for young girls, and they got published in a nationwide magazine. There was an article and pictures of the girls and samples of their writing.
Now, when we talked before, you made mention of something, and I don't know whether you were joking or not, but you said it, and I've got to go back to that, and that you said you offered sleepovers in the library.
I was not joking.
What is that?
I was going to tell you about it. They broke the mold. It was here in Novato.
Really?
And they locked the kids in after supper one night and didn't let them out again until breakfast the next morning. And there were a lot of adults, mostly staff, and a couple of brave spouses of staff, and about 22 kids. And they had a ball. They ate, they cooked s'mores, they played garage band on the computers, they did board games, they did crafts.
I can't
some of them
believe that.
fell asleep under the tables. They did get some sleep, and they had such a good time. They're going to do it again next year.
Did you get a lot of press coverage on that by any chance?
We didn't get any.
You should have. I think you should have. That would have been
Yeah, we should have. And when we
news.
do it again, the other thing our children's librarian did in sort of a related way was she had a sleepover for the stuffed animals for the younger children. And so she took pictures of what the stuffed animals were up to at night in the library when we were closed. And so they were also looking at the computer, and they were reading books, and they were in the staff room having a glass of milk and a cookie. So the kids love it. And then they took pictures and they showed them to the kids at story time.
And then I hear you've got quite a following in some of your branches with the teen programs.
We do.
What causes that in some of the branches, huh?
They do at least two of our branches have a teen council, so they do a lot of the programming. We give them free rein within reason.
The teens do it themselves.
The teens do it themselves. So one of the teen groups in Fairfax took it on themselves to fill the planters boxes on the deck in the back of Fairfax, and they're taking care of them. And they helped design a little teen area that we had in the library. In Novato, it was the teens that decided they wanted to do the camp this summer, the Maker Camp. We do a lot of crafts. I walked into the Civic Center library one day a couple weeks ago, and they were making jewelry out of LED lights or something. I don't know, they had taken apart old electronics and they were making jewelry out of it. So it ranges. We've done art programs, we've had teen book clubs, we've had some mother-daughter book clubs that were teens, and their mom or a neighbor came in. So they're a hard group to reach, but we find when we let them do some of the programming that they bring their friends in.
Good, yeah, great. Well, let's move on down the lifeline here and talk about adults. What programs do you have for adults?
Well, you know, then our role changes again with adults because they're not in school and it's not formal. But, you know, most people are lifelong learners, even if they don't think about being lifelong learners. So people come in and they need to retile their bathroom or fix up their deck, or they've retired and they want to take up a hobby, they want to learn how to do something. So that's all lifelong learning. Maybe they've been laid off, or maybe they just want to start they're unhappy in their job and they want to start a small business. So that's a different kind of lifelong learning. So we do a lot of programming for adults. We've been bringing in art docents from the San Francisco museums to talk about the big exhibits that are coming in. And they're standing room only. We can get 70 or 80 people at a time. Novato, for instance, has 6 book groups that run during the week. There's a Thursday morning book group, there's an afternoon book group, there's evening book groups. We find that...
Do they meet at the library?
They meet at the library. We meet at the library, and some of them read fiction, some of them read mysteries, some of them read nonfiction. There's a group out in West Marin that's just men, and they select their own books. So that's a kind of learning too, because you talk to other people and you discuss things. The other thing about lifelong learning is even if we don't teach it at the library, we can link people to resources that they need. So particularly with Dominican online, they have wonderful history collections and sheet music collections. So we're getting people who are finding those and who are pursuing their hobby or maybe doing research for work who are using that. We know all the community resources, so if you have an interest and you want to share it in the community, we can help you find that.
I was pleased the other day when I went down to visit your office. I found the California room. I had no idea that existed.
You did, and so you're jumping, but that's just
all right.
fine.
I just had to
So
think
the
about
California room is one of those resources we have that's everyone uses. So we bring school groups in, and they're researching something maybe about Marin government. Their assignment will be Marin government. And then we'll have adults come in. They've just bought a house. Maybe they bought a house that they think is old, and they want to know a little bit about it. We have seniors who come in and look at the obituaries or look through the old we have the old high school yearbooks, you know. So it's really one of those resources that's available to everybody. And one of the nice things about it is they've digitized so much of their, so many of their resources, and you can do it from home. So they have these scrapbooks of, you know, outings on Mount Tam in the 1880s, or the warden at San Quentin donated all his diaries, and so they've digitized some of those. They have interviews, oral interviews with all the famous names. When you see them on street signs, you think, who was that? You know, and we have biographies of them. Someone's gone and interviewed them. So it's a fabulous resource.
Well, what do you have that's of particular interest to our seniors or shut-ins?
Well, you know, many of our seniors just come to the library. You know, I think today's seniors are staying active longer and longer. So a lot of our programs aren't necessarily adult oriented, but we get a lot of seniors. It's probably safe to say that most of the morning programs see more seniors than some of the evening programs. For shut-ins, for whatever reason, you might not be able to drive, or you've got a temporary illness and you can't drive, whatever. We have a program called Library Beyond Walls, and we vet volunteers, and they are matched with someone in their community, and they deliver books, and it's a little social occasion for both of them. They get to know each other, and they learn what kinds of books each other's reading. We've just started a program where we will loan ebooks through our Library Beyond Walls. So we can download electronic books, and people like that because it's they can learn to use the e-readers, and then maybe they'll get one as a gift, or maybe they won't, but they feel like they're keeping up with technology.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. They're that difficult to do. So what other kind of services and products do you have for the seniors? Or
that's, you know, we do a lot of computer classes, and those are really popular with our seniors, and we do a lot of...
They're a generation, you know, that sort of missed out, and it's sad.
It is. It's hard to be, you know, I mean, I see the difference. I have a 3.5-year-old granddaughter, and she's better using my iPad than I am. You know, she goes in and her little fingers fly, and there she is. So it is harder. It's harder physically for older people. You know, they've never used a mouse.
They don't have that hand-eye coordination.
They don't have the hand-eye coordination, and we do a lot of one-on-one tutoring, and people really appreciate that because they can learn at their own pace. They don't feel like they're in a big class and they have to keep up with everybody, and they can come back more than once, you know, and work through the same thing again. And they can come in with a specific question, so they want to send email to a family member, or someone sending them pictures, you know, one of their son sending the pictures, and how do they open them. So they're very popular.
Sending attachments, I know, is always
sending attachments is tricky.
How do you send attachments?
And how do you know when something's spam and you shouldn't open it up? So
now you mentioned the name Victoria Gonzalez, having some book clubs. Did you want to talk about her a minute?
I do. In relation to the seniors, we got a grant 2 years ago through the Marin Community Foundation from one of the small press publishers in the East Bay to start a series of senior book clubs, and they're actually in Spanish and English. We do them both in Spanish and in English, and they're scattered around the county. There's one in Novato, there's one out in West Marin, I think there's one in San Geronimo, and there's one in San Rafael at Whistle Stop. And each participant gets a free copy of the book donated by the press, and there was money for a facilitator. And some of the most wonderful things come out of those programs. People really open up as they react to the literature that they're reading. It's really a very nice program.
Excellent, good. So I imagine you have lots of programs that cut across all kinds of age groups. So what are some examples?
We do. So we talked a little bit about the California Room, but we have a really nice program called Homework Help Now, which links students from pretty much from like 3rd grade through maybe junior college.
Really?
With live tutors. So you can go in and find a tutor to help you do your math program or write a college essay.
Just live,
this back and forth chat.
Oh my gosh, how does that work?
You log on to our website. You need to have a library card because that's how you get in, and then you just get hooked. You tell them what you want to do. You know, you type in, I've got a Spanish assignment, or I've got a math assignment.
Are you talking to the person, or
you're
typing back and forth?
You're typing. It's chat-based. There's SAT prep stuff, so there's all kinds of curriculum stuff, all kinds of help, like real tutoring. And then there's writing labs where you can submit a sample of your work, and the next day somebody will send it back to you, all edited. And then in the last couple of years...
Would that work for an adult later on? When somebody who wants to write poetry and you don't know how to write poetry and you wanted to have somebody help you write poetry?
Yes, and they're starting to, I don't know about poetry in particular, but certainly editing an essay piece. And they've started doing a lot of job support. So if you need to write a resume, you can find an expert to help you, or if you need to take the GED, the high school equivalency test, there are practice tests. So it's just got a lot of depth to it, and people who discover it love it. And
Yeah.
I don't think enough people have discovered how much is
Well,
there.
talk about discoveries. I discovered mango. You've got to talk about mango.
I will talk about
love
mango.
it.
So there's at least 46. I know you mentioned before you thought there were 50 languages on it. There's a lot of languages on it. And it's online. And
it's free.
And it's free. And you can, and the exciting thing is this year we now have something called Little Pim, which is their children's version of Mango.
Okay.
And it's aimed at kids from 0 to 6. So if your family's all going on a trip to Mexico and you all want to learn a little bit of Spanish, the kids can learn at their level.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The adults in the household can learn at their level.
Well, my husband and I was telling you earlier, my husband and I went to Croatia, and I thought, oh, there's no way mango's going to have Croatian on there. But I was wrong. There was Croatian, and I could hear it. I could hear the words, see the words, and I could get a translation of words. It was great. I loved it. So thank you.
Yeah,
for that.
it's a really popular program, and people really seem to respond to it.
Yeah. So what about new immigrants or other English, non-English speaking groups? How do you reach out to them?
You know, this is a big deal for us because they're learning. You know, this is a perfect example of somebody who may have been forced into a learning situation that they didn't expect. So we do a lot of bilingual story times where people learn, we read the books, usually picture books, they're usually based around kids, but both in English and in Spanish. So it starts to create a bridge. There's the familiarity of your native tongue, but you can move into learning English. Our bookmobile goes out to the ranches and carries a lot of bilingual material, and it's fun. I got to ride with them a couple months ago, and the English-speaking, the fluent English-speaking kids who are in school will get on the bus with their families and help their parents who are just learning English to pick out books, and their siblings who might not be in school yet and don't have any English yet to pick out books. So that's one of the things we do. We have something called Flagship. People may have seen the bus driving around. It's this huge bus and it's got a pirate ship on one side. And it's funded by First Five of Marin, which in turn is funded by tobacco tax money. And each county got to pick how they wanted to spend the money. And in Marin, they chose early literacy. So this van goes to home daycares, community centers, isolated communities, some ranches, and does maybe an hour-and-a-half program of learning with children and their families. So they read books and they do games. Sometimes they do little circle games, and they talk about literacy with the family. So it's the whole family gets involved.
Well, I've heard that you have a new program that provides free passes to museums. I want to hear about that.
It
Gail.
does.
I don't know.
This is so exciting. It just launched in July, and we've been wanting to do this for a while because we've had people say we'd really love to get museum passes. We know they do this other places. It's called Discover and Go, and there's a link. And there's a link on the front page, on the library's homepage, and there's more than 50 local museums. You go in, you pick the museum you're interested in, and then you get a calendar, and you can pick the date, and then you just print the passes right there. In most cases, they're free. In some cases, they're a discount. Some of them are limited, so they might not be available the very first time you go. But there's the Bay Area Discovery Museum is there, the Exploratorium is there, the Cartoon Museum. I went to the Cartoon Museum using it, and it was fascinating. They had an exhibit of Mad Magazine, the whole history of Mad Magazine, so it was a lot of fun. The Lawrence Hall of Science.
This is good for the museums too, because it helps people kind of go out to new museums that maybe they hadn't gone before.
Yes, and then they'll go back again. So it's good for families. You know, if you have out-of-town relatives and you want to take them in. So we're really excited about it, and there aren't too many bugs, but it's new. So if people have feedback, you know, we would love to hear it works or it doesn't work. And we decided, the entire MarinNet consortium decided to do it, so anyone with any library card in Marin County can use it.
Well, I'm going to go try that out, and I'll give you some feedback on it, Gail.
Okay,
I promise you, because I'm excited about that one. Okay, well, Gail, we have, we're coming to a close, but we've got a few more minutes here. Is there anything we've left out or forgotten to talk about?
We could talk a little bit. I mean, we've talked a little bit about bilingual Spanish, but we do have, whenever we have a cluster of people speaking a non-English language, we try and reach out to them and provide materials for them, because learning, coming to a new country as a senior maybe, and learning a new language can be really difficult. And a good example of that is at the Civic Center. They were approached by a group from Terra Linda that they're mostly older Russian immigrants who asked if we could buy them some materials. And so we set some money aside, and we had trouble buying it through our vendors. And so the community group got together and organized carpools, and our librarian went with them into San Francisco, and they did a road trip. They went to several Russian language bookstores. I think they had lunch at some nice Russian restaurant in the city, and they bought materials that the community was interested in. They go in a lot, and about once a year they refresh the collection.
Excellent.
And people feel like they're learning English, but they've still got part of home when they come to the library.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, if you wanted to leave our audience with a final message, Gail, what would that be with this, especially with this along this lifelong learning process?
We've talked a lot about specific resources, but those resources change a lot because we respond to the changing needs of the community. So really, the constant is the library. I mean, we want people to be able to count on the fact that they can come to the library and learn what they need, either for personal growth or for their job or for their children or whatever it is. And again, it's never too early. Bring in your babies, and it's never too late. I mean, we have very senior citizens coming in and participating in our events, and that's what keeps us young.
Good. Oh, definitely so. Definitely so. That's great. And you talked about the library's never changing, and I think part of that is that the technology too has just really made such a big change, and people can go to the libraries now and get information on technology as well. Well, thank you, Gail, for being here today. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, good. Yeah. And thank you, our audience, for being here today. And thank you, club members of Seroptimus International of Novato, always for being such a fabulous crew to work with. And thank you, Leon and Rick of Novato Public Access Television. You're the best. Believe me, you are the best. And thank you, Gail, again. Thank you.